I never would have imagined that on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, while trying to catch my truant daughter, I would witness my husband cheating. Right outside the coffee shop window, Jessica was glued to Robert, clinging to him like glue, their eyes filled with affection. My face was blank, my hand clenched tightly around the paper cup. The liquid inside surged out through the straw. I didn't even know when Emily had slipped away. "What is wrong with you? We spend so much money on your education. Not studying is bad enough. But skipping class too. How many times is this now? Where have you been running off to this time? Your clothes are a mess." Unable to confront her in public, I went home. It was dark by the time she returned, her school clothes filthy with everything imaginable. My rage flared up. I'm just an ordinary woman, like any middle-aged woman. Boring, nagging, irritable. I harp on the smallest things forever, and I have a cleanliness obsession. Emily always complains about me, saying I make things difficult for myself by hand-washing clothes when the washing machine would do, that I'm constantly looking for trouble, and that I always try to control her. So annoying. That's what Emily told me herself. With her usual sullen face, she walked into her room and slammed the room door shut. "You child!" I frowned, intending to talk to her calmly, but my voice came out like a roar instead. "What's gotten into you now?" "Slamming doors. If you break it, I'll have to fix it. Why are you so young but have such a temper?" I must say things like this a dozen times a day. She didn't pay any attention anymore, didn't give me any reaction, not even touching the dinner I'd made. Tiredly, I turned off the living room light and went back to my room. My mind couldn't help but replay everything from the afternoon. Mr. Harrison, Emily's teacher, had called, saying she was skipping high school again. I quickly put down what I was doing and went looking for her near the high school. She wasn't an obedient kid, but she wasn't reckless either. She wouldn't just run anywhere. I found her at the coffee shop near the high school. She was with Chloe, Emily's friend, at the time, heads together, whispering about something. Just as I was about to go grab her, I heard Chloe suddenly shout, "Your dad's car." I jumped, watched Emily yank Chloe under the table, and instinctively looked out the window. The black sedan was parked across the street. The license plate was a personalized license plate unique to their family, e.g., related to birthdays or address. Robert had spent a long time choosing it. It was one of a kind, impossible to mistake. Soon, I saw Robert walk out of the corner store next door. By his actions, it looked like he just opened a new pack of cigarettes and started puffing away right there. He'd always had this habit. I'd told him to quit hundreds of times, but he never listened. Then, a woman walked up and linked arms with him. He gentlemanly opened the passenger seat door for her, even leaning his rather large body halfway in, seemingly helping her with her seatbelt, before smiling and opening the driver's side door to get in. They both got into the car and drove away just like that. My eyes stung a little. The woman was wearing a gaudy pink dress. She was petite, slightly plump, and clearly not my style. I didn't wear pink, and I didn't wear dresses. Besides, I was standing on this side of the street. It was impossible for me to be across the road, arm in arm with my husband. I stood frozen in place. By the time I came to, the sun was setting. Besides me in the corner and the employee busy behind the counter, there was no one else in the store. That naturally included my daughter. That night, home was the same as usual, except for me, full of fatigue. I was over 40, certainly not young anymore, but I wasn't poorly maintained either. At a glance, I didn't look much different from someone in their 30s. It was just my demeanor. I looked fierce, especially after Emily turned 11 or 12. I rarely smiled, my brows always furrowed tightly. Emily said I always looked unapproachable. And I didn't bother with makeup or fixing my hair, just pulled it back in a messy ponytail, completely unlike that flashy woman. "Hurry up and eat, then do your homework. Don't stay up until 11 or 12 every night." I frowned again, carrying the dinner and knocking on Emily's room door. Emily came out, took the food, and slammed the door shut again, ignoring me. After a while, her room door opened again, and the empty bowl was placed outside. "This kid, why are you so temperamental?" I muttered again. No one replied. Robert hadn't come home yet. I wondered if he was still in Jessica's bed. I sat on the sofa, exhausted. I had never imagined this would happen to me. Robert and I met through a setup by family friends, or arranged introduction. He was a distant relative of one of my mom's friends. How distant? Probably the kind you don't bother visiting during Thanksgiving. I was young then, my mom was nagging me constantly, and I'd been on several introductions. He was the only one who seemed halfway decent. The matchmaker even said he owned a house and a car, a good, honest man who cared about his family. In short, my mom was very satisfied, and I felt okay too. We dated for about 6 months, and then both families agreed to get married. About a year after we got married, I had a difficult labor when I gave birth. Emily was born, but the doctor said I couldn't get pregnant again. This was upsetting to his family, who had a preference for male heirs/grandchildren, especially since he was the only male heir of his generation in his family. But Robert really liked Emily and didn't bring up his family's attitude in front of me much. It was just that whenever big or small issues came up in his family, he would be the first one to step forward and help. I always felt like he cared more about his extended family than he did about our little family. But every time I raised this concern, he always said I was too sensitive. After a while, I didn't feel comfortable saying anything more, just suppressed the unhappiness deep down. After all, besides that, he was generally good to us at home. Even if he was busy with work, one phone call, and he would come back no matter what. If there was something at Emily's high school and I wasn't available, he would also go immediately. I always believed that while our family wasn't perfectly happy or deeply in love, it was normal and warm. How had it come to this? Ugh. My head started to ache. My phone lit up on the sofa. I picked it up and saw a message from Mr. Harrison, Emily's teacher, asking to meet at the high school tomorrow. Emily, this child, it's not that I want to say anything bad about her, but her grades are mediocre, and she's more interested in having fun than anyone else. Skipping study hall the other day was one thing, but today she wasn't even paying attention in class, just staring out the window. I went to see the teacher around noon. When I arrived, the teacher poured out her complaints. Emily's mom, I honestly don't know what to do with this child anymore. What is the situation like at home? I kept apologizing to the teacher, still a little preoccupied. After the lecture, I walked past Emily's class. She was sitting by the window, staring outside, talking to her friend. I thought about it, but decided not to interrupt her. I left alone. Right now, I couldn't even handle my own affairs. How could I possibly confront Emily? More importantly, I wanted to confront Jessica. Robert did come home last night, but it was deep into the night, and I was already asleep in bed. Hearing him tiptoe back, I opened my eyes in the darkness. I waited until the person beside me lay down, put down his phone to charge, and started snoring softly, before I finally sat up in bed. In all our years of marriage, I had never checked Robert's phone. I believed it was the ultimate act of distrust in a marriage, something that shouldn't happen between a normal couple. Anything important should be talked about openly and honestly. But it had come to this. He was suspected of infidelity. The marriage was no longer normal. At this point, if I didn't check his phone, I'd start to think I was the one who wasn't normal. Perhaps because he was used to my trust, he hadn't expected me to do this. So, he hadn't restricted his phone access and had even left his messaging app chat with Jessica wide open. Just 10 minutes ago, he had replied to Jessica with a voice message saying, "Arrived, love you." I opened Jessica's social media profile and carefully compared her figure to the one I'd seen across the street that afternoon. After confirming it was the same person, I scrolled through her posts one by one. Presumably because they were a couple, Jessica hadn't set any privacy restrictions for Robert, allowing me to scroll down easily. I scrolled back to 6 months ago when Robert first appeared on her profile, showing only a hand resting on a steering wheel. He was wearing a safety bracelet I'd gotten him a few years ago during a mountain climb. I recognized it instantly. The caption was ambiguous, and Robert had replied below, eliciting a coy response from Jessica. It was clear they were still in a phase of ambiguous romantic relationship, and hadn't officially become a couple yet. Scrolling up further, Robert appeared more and more frequently. From just a hand, to half a body, then a full body, then showing his face, then mysterious photos of them close together, and even a photo she took showing both of their arms lying on a bed. I checked the date. It was the day Robert told me he was on a business trip. The location tag below was for a budget hotel not far from home. How interesting. How does a business trip take you to a location just a kilometer away from home? That trip seemed awfully short distance. I suppressed the anger in my heart and gathered information about this woman. From the chat logs and social media posts, Jessica wasn't very old, but not too young either, around 28 or 29. She ran a store right across from Emily's high school. I had even bought 1 or 2 items for Emily in there. She and Robert had met when he was buying something for Emily. According to him, it was a romantic love at first sight. In my opinion, it was just 2 people with ulterior motives hooking up. I felt a wave of nausea, a sickening churn in my stomach. I didn't want to think about it any further. I quickly closed my phone and went to sleep, my mind filled with the image of that budget hotel bed photo. I thought about it, then got back up and took several photos of her social media posts, and of Robert and Jessica's chat logs. Though, I didn't know when I would ever use them. A couple of days later, as if by some intentional arrangement, I ran into them again. They were still stuck together like gum, entering a street with bars and restaurants, or entertainment district. I parked my scooter, took off my helmet, and cautiously followed them. They walked up a staircase. I looked up at the glowing, chaotic signs, or neon signs, and found their destination among them. It was an upscale restaurant. I typed the restaurant's name into my phone. The price range, like $75 to $100 per person, cost startled me. As far as I could remember, unless it was a major occasion like Emily's birthday, we would never eat at a restaurant with prices like that. For me, it was a luxury. Even now, I didn't plan on going in alone to spend that much. Just then, there was a 2-story coffee shop next door. I thought for a moment, walked in, and saw the prices on the menu board, which made my wallet ache. Price range like $5 to $7 a cup? They must be kidding. I grumbled inwardly, but finally paid and went upstairs. By coincidence, the second floor was directly across from that ridiculously expensive upscale restaurant. Robert and Jessica were sitting by the window, with a red rose placed between them. It looked very stylish and atmospheric. I chose a seat with my back to Robert, making sure he wouldn't see me. My eyes were fixed on them, observing their every move. They ordered 2 steaks. The server brought their food. Robert cut his steak and switched plates with Jessica. Jessica ate the steak and gave a shy smile. Robert reached out and wiped her mouth. Jessica suddenly leaned in and kissed Robert. How nice, I thought to myself, while rapidly tapping the photo button with my thumb. All I could hear around me was the faint click, click, click of the camera. If Robert wasn't married, what a sweet couple they would be, truly in the throes of new love. The server brought the coffee. It was in a pink, semi-transparent cup, fitting the occasion beautifully. My eyes started to sting with acidity. My phone vibrated with a beep. It was a message from Emily, saying she had plans with friends tonight and wouldn't be home for dinner. I replied okay. I only took 1 sip of that coffee. I watched them finish dinner, then walk out hand in hand. They finally stopped at a neighborhood near my home. I knew this neighborhood. Many of Emily's classmates lived there. It was just across the street from my neighborhood, and the housing prices were quite high. Had it already reached this level of clinging together? I suddenly wanted to laugh. How bold. What if Emily ran into them? It seemed they weren't considering Emily at all. I turned around and swiped my key card to open the gate to my own neighborhood. Your dad said he's going out for drinks with colleagues tonight, so he won't be back. When Emily came home and didn't see her dad, that's what I told her. In reality, he hadn't messaged me at all. Emily slowly acknowledged this, pulled out a chair in the living room, and after seemingly steeling herself, finally asked me, Mom, how have you and Dad kept it going all these years? Kept it going? I was stunned for a moment, then chuckled at her question. Kept what going? We've been married for so many years, we can't just get divorced because we say there's no feeling anymore. But what if? What if? Emily hesitated, unwilling to say too much, finally saying after a long pause, what if Dad made a mistake? This question startled me. Could it be that Emily had also seen them? Emily had been at the coffee shop that day. My heart fluttered with panic. I picked up my glass of water, forcing myself to appear calm. Mistake? I said. It depends on how big the mistake is. If it's not too big, then maybe overlook it. If it's a really big one, we'll see. Otherwise, after over 10 years, the marriage just falls apart so easily. What will happen to you and me? We only have so much in savings. How much would we even get if we split it? My salary is only a few $1,000s a month. You'll still need tutoring and college. Doesn't all that cost money? It's better to have two people earning money than just one, right? Was infidelity a big mistake or a small one? I couldn't help but wonder again. I opened my phone. The first contact in my messaging app was someone I had just added. The prefix note was Mr. Thompson. I let out a long sigh. The next day was a weekday. Robert hadn't come home all night. As I passed the neighboring neighborhood or apartment complex next door, I happened to see his car coming out. I could only sigh at how small the world was. I had made an appointment with Mr. Thompson, or lawyer, last night for 10:30 a.m. To make a good impression, I wore makeup for the first time in a while. Mr. Thompson was recommended by Mark, Sarah's classmate, from high school. Mark and I had a good relationship back then, and we'd kept in touch on and off over the years. When he heard I was consulting about this matter, he didn't hesitate to recommend Mr. Thompson. I talked with him for 2 hours today. Mr. Thompson told me that legally, there is no specific concept of infidelity or adultery. Unless I could prove they were illegally cohabiting or something similar to prove bigamy or polygamy, it would be difficult to prove legal fault for infidelity alone. Of course, it was best to negotiate the divorce privately rather than going to court. I would likely get more that way. I thanked Mr. Thompson and went home to think carefully. A few days later, it was Thanksgiving, or major family holiday. This was the first relatively formal time I had seen Robert since I witnessed him cheating. He had been using various excuses not to come home for almost half a month. Our family of 3 hadn't sat down for a meal together in a long time. As soon as I got in the car, I saw 2 stuffed animals in the back seat that didn't belong there. His car was usually a low-key, somber gray. When had it acquired these 2 gaudy things? And they clearly weren't something Emily would like. There was no need to guess whose work they were. Robert, I said, sitting in the passenger seat, feeling a bit uncomfortable. I sniffed the air and suddenly asked, "Why does your car smell so fragrant?" "I don't see any car air freshener." "Oh," he replied casually, holding the steering wheel. "Didn't I lend the car to a colleague the other day?" He probably had someone in the car. I'm a grown man, why would I use car air freshener? At this point, Emily was in the back seat playing on her phone. When she heard her dad speak, she suddenly looked up. "I thought so too," I said, pulling down the passenger seat visor and reapplying my lipstick while looking in the mirror. "You never liked fiddling with these things. You even have a couple of stuffed animals in the back now. But they're not ours, so you should return them quickly. What if they're important to someone? You don't want them to worry." "Yeah, I'll drop them off when I go to the office." He didn't seem to care at all. His tone was the same as usual. "Sarah, call your parents and tell them we'll be there in 15 minutes. I didn't reply to that. In the reflection of the visor mirror, my eyes met Emily's. Emily quickly looked away. I also pretended nothing was wrong, closed the visor, and closed my eyes, pretending to be asleep. In previous years, Thanksgiving was always spent at Grandpa and Grandma Miller's place. Robert's older sister, Susan, and younger sister, Linda, usually spent the holiday with their in-laws. I didn't know what strange turn of events had led to everyone gathering together today. Emily wasn't very close to their children, they didn't talk to each other, and the atmosphere was a bit awkward. Normally, I would have gotten up and tried to find topics to liven up the atmosphere. But today, I just wasn't in the mood. After dinner, I gathered all the adults and went into the inside room. The main topic was about the house. The house we lived in was in Mr. and Mrs. Miller's name. In reality, our family and Mr. and Mrs. Miller had each paid part of the down payment, and we had been the ones paying the mortgage ever since. So, it could really be considered our family's house. If this issue wasn't resolved, it would be very difficult to sort out when we got divorced later. Yes, I had made up my mind. I was definitely going to get divorced from Robert. But before getting divorced, I had to make sure I could live comfortably with Emily alone, without letting this matter lower our quality of life. Especially the house. I had worked so hard for so long, paying such a high mortgage every month, and yet the house wasn't in my name. I wouldn't get anything in a divorce? Wasn't that a huge joke? So I proposed transferring the house out of Mr. and Mrs. Miller's name and putting it in Emily's name. Mr. and Mrs. Miller were very unhappy. What does Robert's wife mean? It's like she wants to draw a line between us. You live in the house, what's the difference between having our names or Emily's name on it? Mr. Miller pursed his lips. Besides, your mother and I did put money in that house. Put money in. It was just 100,000 or so, and they kept talking about it. They had given Linda, their younger daughter, more than that indirectly over the years. I thought this internally, but on the surface, I smiled. It's just that Emily is getting older, right? I was thinking that putting the house in Emily's name would make things easier for her. Dad, I've thought it through. You contributed 180,000 back then, and now I'll give you 200,000. Consider the 180,000 as a loan from back then, and I'm paying it back now. Before I could finish, Mrs. Miller exploded again. What paying back? Robert's wife, are you trying to split up the family? That was exactly what I meant, but I couldn't show it now. Robert was acting like he was dead, not saying a word beside me, just poking at his phone. I bowed and scraped, trying to soothe Mr. and Mrs. Miller's emotions. Robert's sisters, Susan and Linda, also jumped into the fray, chiming in left and right, as if they had a share in the house too. Let me tell you, Robert's wife, even though you put money in that house, it actually belongs to our family. Don't think it's just your immediate families. To put it harshly, even after your mother and I are gone, your sisters, Susan and Linda, will have a share in that house. Mr. Miller said this self-righteously. I couldn't control myself and sneered openly. Why? I had scrimped and saved to pay the mortgage, and in the end, Robert's sisters, Susan and Linda, who hadn't contributed a thing, wanted to carve up my house. This family really knows how to play the angles. The conversation ended badly. Before it was even time for dinner, I found an excuse to leave with Emily. In the car, the tension between Robert and me must have been too high. Emily was quiet in the back seat, as if she wasn't even there, completely unlike her usual playful self. Robert couldn't help but complain about me. What exactly are you trying to do? Why do you insist on putting the name on the deed? What is this about? What's wrong? Is it wrong for me to put it in my daughter's name? You, Robert, you don't even help me say a word. I said the down payment was half us and half your parents, and we paid the rest of the mortgage. So why shouldn't we put our names on it? It's not even just my name. It's in your daughter's name. It hurts feelings. Robert didn't know what to say. He hit the brakes angrily. I'm meeting a colleague for drinks tonight. You two can take a ride-sharing service home. It's not far. Fine, we'll go home ourselves. Don't need you to drive us. I was angry too. I couldn't believe he was like this. I slammed the car door shut, opened the back door, and got Emily out. Feelings. Robert, think about it yourself. Are your parents siding with Emily? Alex, Linda's son, Robert's nephew, is the apple of their eye. We paid for the majority of this house, and your parents intend to give it all to Linda. What right do they have? This house has to be ours. Robert rolled down the car window, a disdainful look on his face. If you ask me, you just calculate too much. Isn't Linda my sister? Isn't her son my nephew? You're always guarding against this and that, you just don't treat us like family. You're so calculating. With that, he drove away without looking back. I was trembling with anger, my hand gripping Emily's tightly. Emily didn't know what to say. She just gently rubbed my knuckles with her thumb, a form of comfort. After my mood had calmed down a little, I opened the ride-sharing service app on my phone. Half an hour later, we arrived home in a ride-sharing service. The room was dark. I didn't turn on the light, just walked in directly and took off my shoes. Robert was very angry and hadn't come home for several days in a row. I saw his car going in and out of the neighboring neighborhood, or apartment complex next door, several times. Now I could look at it completely calmly, like observing someone else's business, and just go about my normal life. As usual, I was wearing my typical work clothes, or business attire, carrying a shopping bag, or tote bag, full of groceries from the grocery store. Passing the neighboring neighborhood, or apartment complex next door, I unexpectedly ran into Emily. She was standing across from the neighboring neighborhood, or apartment complex next door, her hand holding her phone not yet fully lowered. Her expression froze when she saw me. I had just seen Robert drive out of here. So, it was obvious what she was filming. How long have you been taking photos? Just as she was looking uncomfortable, I walked over. Emily stammered, unable to say a word. I held out my hand, and Emily instinctively handed over her phone. I looked through the album. There were many photos of Robert and Jessica. Some were even clear shots of their faces. Looking at the photos, and thinking about Emily taking them, I couldn't help but smile slightly. She probably sensed I wasn't scolding her and knew I wouldn't yell at her. Emily let out a long breath. So, you've been staking out your dad every day to take pictures? What are you trying to do? I asked, handing the phone back to her. Emily took the phone back in SA. Honestly, my friend's older sister is studying law. She told me that legally, infidelity, or adultery, is difficult to define as fault, but there's a concept like bigamy, or polygamy. I want to take more evidence so it will be easier to fight your divorce case. I patted Emily's head, a few laugh lines appearing at the corners of my eyes. My daughter is on my side. Changing the subject, I added, but you shouldn't get involved in grown-up matters. I've already taken a lot. Hearing me say that, she realized I didn't want her to continue interfering, and quickly said, I really have taken a lot, Mom. You send those photos to me. I have my own Mr. Thompson, or lawyer, I said easily. Don't worry about me. I noticed something was up around Thanksgiving, or major family holiday. Your dad, the way he is, after being with him for so long, I know him inside and out. I didn't say anything before because I was afraid of affecting your studies, but now that you've found out, I don't need to hide it anymore. I plan to divorce your dad, Emily. Who do you want to live with? Suddenly, I asked Emily very seriously. With you. Emily eagerly declared her loyalty, even volunteering, I can help you. Really? Mom. I looked at her somewhat helplessly, my fingers unconsciously pinching the handle of the shopping bag, or tote bag, of groceries. After thinking for a while, I couldn't bear to dampen her enthusiasm. I finally spoke, okay, there is one thing you can really help me with. I motioned for her to lean closer and quietly told her my plan, asking her to cooperate with me to put on a show. After listening, Emily's eyebrows jumped up in surprise. She looked at me in astonishment and gave me a thumbs up. Clever. Mom, that move of yours. It's truly brilliant. Using Emily as an excuse, I got Robert, who hadn't been home for almost half a month, to return. Emily had been distracted by her detective work and her midterm or progress test. Grades were rather dismal. I spread the test papers out, deliberately putting on a serious expression. I talked to Mr. Harrison, Emily's teacher. With Emily's grades right now, getting into college is a pipe dream. I glared at her, feigning disappointment and frustration, 5 parts acting, 5 parts real. It scared Emily, and she shrank back. I had only asked her to do a little worse on the test. I hadn't expected her actual performance to be so far below standard. After I dealt with this matter, I definitely needed to make sure she studied harder. She won't get into college? Robert frowned. There are still 2 years left. Emily has good learning ability, she should be able to catch up. He sounded like he was trying to reassure himself. What if she doesn't? I pressed. I talked to Mr. Harrison, Emily's teacher, and there's a better option now, but I don't know if you're willing to hear it. Robert leaned back in the dining chair, pinching the bridge of his nose, signaling for me to speak. Have Emily transferred to the college prep track or advanced program requiring financial verification for university applications. She won't have to go through the intense SAT/ACT or college entrance exams. It will cost a bit more, but I checked, and it's within the range our family savings can afford. I took out the bank account statements/records and compared them to the price list from the college consultant/study abroad agency, explaining everything to Robert one by one. Robert initially disagreed. I pushed the test papers towards him. Robert glanced at Emily. I tried my best to look innocent and naive. Robert sighed and implicitly agreed. Okay, now there's just one issue. The college consultant/study abroad agency needs financial verification for college application. We meet the requirement with our savings, but not with our assets. We're short by 700,000 or 800,000. I spoke, reciting the lines I had prepared, sounding like a lion. You go talk to your parents. Emily needs to go to college. Based on our previous discussion, I'll give Robert's sisters, Susan and Linda, 100,000 each, put the house in Emily's name, and then the assets will meet the requirement. I'll think about it. Robert didn't immediately agree. You think about it. If you delay your daughter's high school education, don't blame me later. I stood up. Before entering the room, I paused as if I had just remembered something, leaning half my body out. I smirked. Are you staying home tonight? How rare. I'll leave soon, so you don't have to be annoyed looking at me. Robert glanced at the college consultant/study abroad agency brochure again, picked up his bag, and started to leave too. Really? Staying at a colleague's place every day, be careful they don't kick you out. I smiled meaningfully and closed the room door in one smooth motion. Perhaps still afraid that Emily wouldn't get into college, this time when I demanded the house be transferred to Emily, Robert didn't say anything and went to discuss it with Grandpa and Grandma Miller and his 2 sisters, Susan and Linda, himself. After much discussion, Robert's sisters, Susan and Linda, each got 100,000, and we went to the county clerk's office, or title office. Next is setting up the educational fund for asset verification. My mom, wait, where did my mom come from? The narrative is Sarah's first person. The text says, this must be a typo in the source text and should be, I took all the bank books. Assuming it's a typo and it's Sarah. Okay, correcting the interpretation, I took all the bank account statements/records, went to the bank with Emily, and transferred all family savings into an account for Emily, designating it as an educational fund. This aligns with the later legal point. Now we're all S.E.T. I went home and made a big meal. Robert wasn't home, so it was just Emily and me eating. You're really ruthless, Emily exclaimed. You didn't leave him with anything. A man who cheats doesn't care about reputation, why should he care about anything else? I scoffed. Anyway, Grandpa and Grandma Miller will never abandon their darling son, the important thing is that you and I can live. So when are you planning to get divorced? Emily asked. I pointed to the bags and boxes piled in the living room. Anytime. I've already packed his belongings. He can be gone whenever. Emily chuckled softly, perhaps only realizing now that her mother was more decisive than she had imagined. A week later, Emily noticed the belongings were gone and asked me. I told her I had shipped them all out. She asked, where did I ship them? I said, the neighboring neighborhood, or apartment complex next door. I asked her not to come home that evening. I had something to talk about with Robert face to face. Emily was smart and understood immediately. We were going to lay everything out and talk, and it was a topic she shouldn't be involved in. She wisely went to a friend's place to stay. I was home alone. I heard shuffling sounds outside and knew it was Robert returning. But a few days earlier, I had hired a locksmith to change the locks. His key wouldn't open the door. What is the meaning of this? I opened the door for him. He had a dark look on his face and roared at me. "What do you think?" I calmly retorted. "Since you've already received your belongings, you should know I know everything. Do you still need to ask me what I mean?" Seeing that a hard approach didn't work on me, he immediately switched to a softer tactic and tried to argue. "Sarah, you've misunderstood me. It was just a colleague, it meant nothing. You know why I'm running around working so hard outside every day. Isn't it for this family? Working for this family." All the way to Jessica's bed? I couldn't help but laugh. I pulled out the photos Emily took. "You're a long-term employee at a good company. Don't you feel ashamed doing something like this?" He was about to say more, but I exhaled, unwilling to listen to his lies, and slapped the divorce papers, settlement agreement, in front of him. "Sign it." I think someone who cares so much about reputation wouldn't want me to print out the photos I have and announce it to the world, would you? He didn't want a divorce. After several rounds of entanglement, I was very impatient. I pulled out the 200+ photos I had printed. "If you don't get divorced, these photos will immediately appear outside your office or workplace and near the neighborhood." He was a man who cared most about reputation. He told me to think about it myself and left again. Half a month later, after my constant urging and threats, he finally agreed to the divorce. However, he was very unhappy about the money issue, believing I was suspected of transferring assets, concealing assets. But after consulting with Mr. Thompson, our lawyer, we had only transferred all the money to Emily's name, not into my name, so it wasn't transferring assets, concealing assets, to myself. I countered him. "You've already agreed that Emily will live with me. You haven't even thought about fighting for custody, parental rights, have you?" His eyes darted away as he answered, "She's a girl, it's definitely better for her to be with her mom. I don't understand things about girls/women that much. But you're certainly good at charming women." I didn't want to dwell on this issue with him any further. He was still hesitant about the money. He had softened his stance but wasn't taking any action. I gave him a final ultimatum directly. If he didn't agree to the divorce within 2 days, I would make this matter known to everyone and even go near Emily's high school to make sure. Jessica's store couldn't stay open. Only then did he reluctantly nod, stating that the divorce time was up to me and he would definitely show up. I finally breathed a sigh of relief, eager to finalize it. The next day was a weekday, bright and sunny. During my lunch break, I told Emily that the paperwork was done/finalized the divorce. At that time, I had just finished a meal with Robert, no, my ex-husband. I was standing outside Emily's high school entrance. Looking across the street, I could see Jessica's store. It finally ended. It still felt a bit surreal. I messaged Emily to tell her the good news. Emily had been keeping up with the developments and replied to my message immediately, happy for me. Jessica had pulled out a stool and was sitting outside her store, basking in the sun, her face animated, unable to hide her happiness. Well, of course. We were divorced. Her chances of becoming the official partner were much higher. How could she not be happy? I couldn't be bothered with it anymore. I turned around and went home, took a good nap, and didn't wake up until 5 in the afternoon. I opened my phone. Emily had sent me 2 videos. They weren't long. She appeared in them. They must have been filmed by her classmate, Olivia, Emily's classmate. In the video, Emily was wearing school clothes, her hair tied back, holding a hammer, and was inside the store. It was the first time I had seen Jessica's face up close like this. Emily pointed the hammer at Jessica, her face full of indignation. "Bitch. Homewrecker." Jessica's face turned white then red, stubbornly arguing, "Hey, what are you talking about, you little brat? Don't make false accusations." Emily swung the hammer and smashed it down hard, shattering the cash register, or counter. Jessica started screaming in terror. Emily didn't react at all. In the surveillance video, or security footage, I could only see Emily's back. She walked from the STO. Re-entrance into the store, and started smashing and hitting various shelves, or display cases. Her movements were fast, she hit things steadily, and everything crashed down onto the floor. The delicate merchandise, or items, turned into pieces/shards. Jessica continued screaming. Her lung capacity was impressive. Emily had chosen a time that was even a peak hour. Many people were still gathered in the store and hadn't left. There were even people watching outside the store entrance. "Stop it! Stop it now! Or I'll tell the high school. I'll call your parents." Jessica just watched my daughter smash the store, trying to raise her voice to threaten her. But my daughter wasn't someone who was afraid of trouble like that. She retorted directly, "Go ahead. Call your boyfriend right now to stick up for you. See who's more important to your boyfriend, me, his biological daughter, or you, the mistress with no morals or conscience." Saying this, she hit the shelves, or display cases, with the hammer again. Within minutes, the small store was a wreck/ruins. Broken glass was everywhere on the floor. Watching the video, I was terrified, afraid the broken glass would cut Emily's feet. "You're lying!" Jessica yelled. "Do you need me to make a phone call to find out if I'm lying? Stop pretending. I'll tell you something. My dad just divorced my mom, but he has no money left in his hands. All the money and the house are with me. I won't give a single cent to you two." Emily's voice was louder than hers. "Bah! You two, trying to mess with our family. Let me tell you, it's not that you won and broke up my dad and mom. It's that my little family didn't want my dad anymore. Only you are still, foolishly, treating him like a prize. He has no money left." Jessica's face turned completely black. Olivia, Emily's classmate, who was filming, was a bit mean/malicious. She deliberately aimed the camera at Jessica at that moment to capture her unpleasant expression. Jessica made a phone call. The background noise was too loud, and she didn't raise her voice, so I couldn't hear what they were saying. But in the second video, I saw my ex-husband, Robert, appear. He tried to soothe Emily, but failed. Jessica, his girlfriend, was yelling and making a scene nearby. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, looking flustered and unsure of what to do. Finally, Emily had vented her anger and felt good. She walked towards the camera, gave a mock bow towards her ex-husband, and showed a smile. "Dad, although you found your true love while married, you are now divorced from my mom. As your daughter, I sincerely wish you both well." She completely changed her aggressive/defiant attitude, smiling sweetly. "May you always be cheated on, have a rough road ahead, turn white overnight, and a lifetime of nightmares." Hearing that, I was on my end of the video, my face buried under the covers, smiling silently.